I'd like to welcome everybody to the South Burlington City Council meeting for July 15th, 2024. And as always, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So, Andrew, would you like to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now, instructions on exiting the building in case of emergency and review of technology options. Stephen Locke, Acting City Manager.
Good evening, everyone, and sorry for the technical problems. In an emergency, two rear doors at the back of the auditorium, and then you can go left or right to exit. Going to admit someone else into our meeting. If you are online, if you turn your camera on, we will recognize you or indicate so in the chat. Otherwise, we are not monitoring the chat for content.
Thank you, Stephen. Number 3 is agenda review. Are there any additions, deletions, or changes in order of the agenda items tonight? And by the way, Mr. Scanlon is going to be joining us remotely as soon as he gets the link to this meeting. All right, he's in?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Hi, Mike.
Hey, guys.
Are there any additions or changes to the agenda tonight? Okay. Moving on to item number 4, which is comments and questions from the public not related to the agenda tonight. Are there any in the audience? Because there probably aren't very many people online right now. I'll take that as last time. Going once, going twice? Okay. So then item number 5, which is councilors' announcements and reports on committee assignments and the city manager's report. Lori, would you like to start?
I have no announcements tonight. Thank you.
Okay, Elizabeth?
No, I did participate. I did participate in the first hearing for the Planning Commission on the changes in LDRs, so that was very informational and look forward to hearing more.
Was that one of the listening meetings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it well attended?
No, it was a relatively small group. It was at noon at City Hall.
Noon, right. Yeah. Was there one today, too, at 5 o'clock, I think?
I am not aware and did not attend that.
There was one? Okay, all right. Did you attend?
No.
No, okay. Thank you. Andrew?
Sure. So, unfortunately, the Economic Development Committee was canceled for lack of quorum, but Tim and I did attend a coffee with a counselor.
2 counselors.
Coffee with 2 counselors, true. There were 8 residents in attendance. I think it was a really good meeting. We talked about lots of issues. We talked about bike ped safety, noise ordinances, Hubbard Park, taxes. Tim gave an update on the Air National Guard League, and I think it was quite a good session. Look forward to doing some more.
And so I'll segue into that. The only complaint I saw on one of the Facebook's group was that I did post it at like 7:30 in the morning that, hey, at 9 o'clock there's this thing today. It was publicized on some city media, but next time we'll try to post it farther in the future on Facebook and other media. Because I think that people saw it at the last minute and they couldn't go or it was too late. So I also attended that, and it was a good discussion. There were 8 people that were very much awake at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we had some coffee and some Dunkin' Donuts, and there was good discussion about a lot of issues. And the other thing I did was I attended the kind of soggy night out at the park on Thursday night with the Hitmen, and they played all the hits, and they played 2 Steely Dan songs, so I was really happy, which is good. Unfortunately, it started to rain a little bit harder, so we left. But at least there were some people there, which was good. Yeah. So that's all I have. We'll go on to the consent agenda, which is agenda item number 6. So we need to talk about Part A, which is consider and sign the disbursements, then authorize the city manager to enter into a contract. Excuse me?
Mike had his hand up.
Mike has his hand up. Oh, Mike. Yeah. Did you do something in the last
Yes, before
meeting?
I was
you go ahead with
overseas. Thank you very much. I was overseas for 10 days before this meeting, but before that, I did have a chance to go to the Development and Review Board. I have to say I was quite impressed with their approach to the projects that were in front of them. One was a new dental office on Kimball Avenue. Another one was to divide a lot to allow the building of a second house. And the third was about the Bryan project and the movement of the Old Farm Road. And why I say I was quite impressed is they basically stayed to the parameters of what are in the LDRs, but they also showed flexibility when some requests were made about timing or slight adjustments that would not distract from what are the general parameters what we're trying to do, but to allow the projects to go forward. And, I thought that was an extremely constructive approach by the DRB, and I would like to definitely applaud them for their work. Because that obviously, new development helps us with tax revenues and also providing services in town, which also means less travel to get to services. Also, just briefly as the South Burlington Commissioner to the Green Mountain Transport, I just want to flag that this month will be sort of a key month in the re-imaging of Green Mountain Transport, something that we've been working on with South Burlington, who have been meeting quarterly with GMT, and basically to try to sort of, we brought in the school board as well to sort of align our needs with the need for GMT to increase its passenger load of choice riders. And on the 16th, and then again on the 30th, some serious decisions will be made in GMT, public forum about how we'll start realigning and re-imaging it to make it more of a focused urban transit hub, which I think will serve very much our benefits and our goal and our city plan to move people more constructively around the city out of cars and other options. And we've also reached out, that is the city, give Jesse kudos on having a coordination meeting with Wilson and Shelburne to see how we basically can expand this collective approach to reimagining GMT. So that's it.
Thanks, Mike. So going back to the consent agenda, we have to consider and sign disbursements, authorize the city manager to enter into a contract with DeSorcy Emergency Products for the purchase of an aerial fire apparatus, which is a fire truck, for a price not to exceed $1.6 million upon final review and approval of the city attorney. Item C, approve the appointments to the Safe Routes to School Task Force as presented. Item D, approve resolution 2024-16, extending expired committee appointments on policy advising committees until new appointments are made. And E, approve the award of the Bartlett Bay Culvert Replacement Project Engineering and Design contract to Stantec.
Could you just say a word about that Bartlett Bay culvert? What is it?
So, you want to hear something about the Bartlett Bay culvert?
Yeah, we live in that area.
Oh.
I'm totally unaware.
Okay. Well, why don't we,
Tom is here.
right, let's wait till we get a motion, and then there'll be time for some discussion, okay? So, do we have a motion to approve these items?
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? It sounds like there is some discussion. So, would you like the head of the DPW to come up and describe the work project for you?
I don't mean to take a lot of time.
No, it's okay. It's this,
Good evening, everybody. Tom DePietro, Director of Public Works. So a few years ago, we did some preliminary engineering to look at a culvert on Bartlett Bay Road that is undersized. It contributes to some flooding in the area during large storms. So this contract is to do that final engineering and really come up with a final design to replace that culvert and maybe some of the drainage to it. So kind of looking at that whole area. So that's what we're moving forward with a grant through VTrans.
so this is just the engineering work, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and is it probably going to be an inverted concrete box, U-shaped type?
It could be a cast-in-place structure, so we've got some recommendations from preliminary that they're going to finalize, so it's really
Right.
too early to say, but it will be larger.
Okay, thank you. Does that satisfy you?
Yes,
Oh, okay, you're welcome. So if there's no discussion, you ready for the vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mike says aye, so it's unanimous. Thank you. All right. Moving on to item number 7, which is a public
Tim.
hearing warned for 7
Tim.
o'clock. Oh, yes, Mike, now you have your hand up.
Yes, I just had a question.
Yes.
Under the new ARPA rules that I guess will be explained on the 5th, there's, as I understand it, a need to commit the money sooner than we had all thought, or Is the fire engine or the ladder truck an option for that? I know that we had talked about, some of us had talked about funds for the park delayed maintenance, but then it seemed that that delayed maintenance was not in a position to be funded at this stage. I'm just a question. And
See what?
Martha might be
Oh. Martha is here. Would you like her to comment on that?
sure.
Martha Machar, Finance Director. Yes, the rule of change and more will be coming when we come to you. And if the council do decide to use the ARPA fund to buy the fire engine, that's allowable expense.
And it's something that we could discuss at, I guess it is our next meeting that we'll be discussing the use of ARPA funds, or having voted on this issue is already off the table with the fire engine, the ladder truck.
Well, I don't think any funds are going to be expended now for quite a while, right? This is just the authorization for it.
Okay.
And the packet did describe exactly how it would be financed without ARPA funds at this point, which is part of the plan. But we can always bring it back up in August. Are you going to be available for that meeting? Are
Yes,
you not?
I will be.
Okay.
I will be. Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Martha. Any other questions? All right. Item number 7, public hearing, hold a third reading and public hearing of a drinking water ordinance update with Tom DePietro, Public Works Director, and Dave Wheeler, the Water Resources Engineer. Now, there was a question about this raised by Elizabeth. Do you want to address that?
Sure. Tom DePietro, Public Work Director. With me is Dave Wheeler, our Water Resources Engineer. We have a very short presentation, and then if there's a question, we can address it off the top or wait till the end at council's preference.
Wasn't there an issue with the wording?
So, no, it's just that they're going to ask you. It'll be covered at the end of the presentation.
Thank you. All right. Go ahead.
All right, great. Dave Wheeler, Water Resources Engineer. So yeah, this is the third time we are before you with the proposed changes to the water ordinance. This is the first public hearing. So you should be very familiar with the proposed changes at this point. You'll see on the bottom of the first slide here that this is actually a change to the presentation tonight, different from what was in the packet. We are proposing to strike one of the proposed changes, and you will hear more about that at the end of the presentation. So previously we were here in April and again in May. There are a bunch of technical changes to the water ordinance, minor language cleanup, bringing this forward, 20 years since it has been updated last. In this presentation, we'll just touch on, for a third time, the more significant changes. So the first being the water service area. This is one of the more, driving issues. We need to establish this water service area map. It shows the areas of the city that, will and won't be served by the city's municipal water system, with exceptions. Our booster pump policy right now, there are some booster pumps within the city, and we have come across the issue where the state would require installation of generators as backup power in an emergency situation, and we want to avoid providing water through powered systems, and it's our preference to provide it gravity fed. So because of that, we are prohibiting any new booster pumps that would, get the water pressure up to the minimum 35 psi. And I previously described, why we need to be at 35 psi. It has to do with the critical water tank operating levels. So when the water tank is drawn down to a certain elevation, we need to still be able to provide that water pressure. We've made a bunch of changes to the water meter policy, just clarifying costs, ownership. So the property owner pays the installation cost, and the city will then take over ownership of the meter after it is installed. We are moving towards automatic meter reading through a remote radio read system. So that is being rolled out now. And we've added language that would require a fee for folks who don't end up converting. And then we have the more recently adopted city standards, the DPW Public Works specifications that reference the CWD standards as well. So it's just various technical requirements for the meters. And then we've also added language for temporary meters during construction. We've established the city center service area with a reserve capacity of 250,000 gallons set aside for the service area. That's a floor, so we could exceed that, and that is necessary to establish our new downtown center designation. The penalties were just not in alignment with other sections of our ordinance, so we've revised the penalty fees. So now they're all consistent. We've updated the rates and fees, and we've added in a base rate, but we have not, there's no dollar value established currently. So it starts at $0, effectively no base rate. And it just allows the city council to effectively establish a base rate in the future. And so billing right now is through usage only. And we also provide flexibility to adjust the minimum water use quantity. So it's currently at 1,000 cubic feet, and 41% of customers in South Burlington use less than 1,000 cubic feet. So you could adjust that number.
You pointed to lead an independent review of the security failures at the
So let's see. Actually, so we moved the last slide to the very end. We're going to skip to that one first, then we'll come back to the next steps.
Yep, so I'm going to jump in on this one. So we are recommending at this point that council take no action on this evening. So through this public process, right, we've received some public input, and this also relates to the wastewater ordinance that is also in front of you on August 5th. We're trying to establish how to do wastewater billing for folks that don't have water meters. If the council remembers that discussion. So in our efforts to align the different ordinances and policies, we had one sentence in the water ordinance that discussed that. In hindsight, we would like to remove that sentence and just address that entirely within the wastewater ordinance, how folks will be billed for wastewater when they are not on the city water system. So what we're proposing to do is strike this one sentence that you see, section 38-107, because this will be addressed within, like I said, the wastewater ordinance. And we're going to take the next week here to further talk with residents. So it's down in Queen City Park, right, is where this issue arose, for those that may not remember. Work with them and find out some of the difficulties that we may have for some atypical construction down there that may make installation of water meters more difficult than we anticipated originally. So that's what we've been working through this week. So again, nothing else has changed. It's our hope to work some of that out this week with the folks down at Queen City Park, and then rewarn this for a final public hearing and your approval on August 5th, when we'll have some other items on your agenda related to ordinances anyway.
So do you need us to set a date for that for August 5th now, or is that already set for the sewer ordinance? Or
so the sewer ordinance, the wastewater and stormwater ordinance public hearing is already set for August 5th, and we'll be putting notice in the other paper for that.
Right.
Coming up here to meet the deadline. We would also notice this again, so renotice this with the entire ordinance with this one sentence deleted, so that it would be unchanged from, the public would have a chance to look at it in its entirety at that time.
So would you like the water ordinance to be on that same night as well?
Yes.
For another public reading with possible action that night?
Yeah, public hearing with possible action, yeah.
So do we have to make a motion for that? All right. Can I have a motion for that? Sure.
One other, this is Colin McNeil, City Attorney. One other request would be that you just approve the amendment to the ordinance that Mr. DePietro suggested, and now warn it for another public hearing on the 5th.
Okay. You need two separate motions for that?
No, you can do that in one motion.
Okay. So somebody have a motion?
I move that we approve the amendment to the water ordinance that is in front of us, and that we warn a new hearing, public hearing for August 5th.
I'll second that.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? So I'll just add the discussion that part of that proposed change to the amendment is to strike section 38-107. Is that correct? Okay, I just want to be clear about that. Okay. So now we have a motion and a second. Are you ready for the vote?
And it's 38-107-2. So there's
Oh, I'm
1,
sorry.
2, 3, you know. So
I
it's
didn't
that.
see the two, so we'll just rephrase that as deleted section 38-107, paragraph 2, I would suppose.
And one other, sorry to interrupt again, but one other, this ordinance was set for a public hearing tonight. I don't know if anyone is here to speak to the ordinance who's here.
Oh,
but if there are people who want to speak, I would recommend you open the public hearing, take those comments, and then close the public hearing.
Okay. Why don't we do that now? So we're going to table the motion for now?
Yep.
Okay. And we're going to open up the public hearing, but I need a motion for that.
So I move to open the public hearing and waive the formal reading of the duly warned proposed amendments to the city's water ordinance pursuant to 24A VSA Chapter 13, Section 106.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. How about Mike? Can we hear him?
He's raising his hand online.
Okay.
He's raised his hand. I think oh, he turned off his camera.
He's got his hand up. Yeah.
He's saying, okay, so it sounds like it's unanimous,
Aye.
right? So the public hearing is now open on the water ordinance changes. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to comment on that?
But the truth is,
How about online?
throwing a pass is on behalf of the school. With all due respect, all its life.
Sounds like they're not talking about it. All right, you see anybody with their hands up?
Lori Birch has her camera on, but I'm not sure if she wants to speak. Or
Okay. So I'll take that as a no. So there's no public input. So I guess we need a motion to close the hearing?
I move to close the public.
Wait, do you have somebody?
Lori, if you're attempting to speak, you're muted. Lori, were you attempting to speak?
I think she said no. I think I saw a no.
So I move to close the public hearing of proposed amendments as warned to the City of South Burlington's water ordinance pursuant to 24A VSA Chapter 13, Section 106.
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I see Mike has his hand up, so it is unanimous again. So now we have a tabled motion to set the date and also strike section 30-107, paragraph 2. Are you ready for the vote on that? All those in favor?
Quick discussion.
Yep, discussion, sure.
Yeah, just a quick item. When I attended the public listening session on the LDR changes, the question came up of how do water and sewer service area ordinances fit with the changes that are coming up. And I know Andrew at one point brought up, I know I brought it up in the context of S100 or the Home Act, and I know Andrew brought it up in the context of charging the Planning Commission with receiving the maps and reviewing them. I just want to be clear from my standpoint. I know there are two separate bodies that govern those decisions, but at some point that the ordinance changes are supportive of the Home Act. And just when we have another hearing, if we could just clarify that in a public meeting, that would be great.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Ready for the vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mike says aye as well, so it is unanimous again. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you in August for a nice long hearing, public hearing. Now we're coming up on item 9, which has the largest audience tonight, I'll bet. And that would be receive information from the community and staff on pickleball courts at Szymanski Park. So I would like to get, I'm sure that everybody, how many people here would like to speak? Raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe. It's up, you can change your mind as it goes along. It's okay. Are most people here about pickleball tonight? Nod your head. Okay, good. All right. Is there anybody online that wanted to? We have some people who. Okay. All right. They've got their cameras turned on. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take 4 people from the audience, then we'll go to the meeting online and take that testimony. And whoever raised their hand first, why don't you come to the podium? And I think it was you. Yeah. You're the lucky one tonight. And please identify yourself and where you live, and speak slowly, enunciate, because I have trouble hearing people's names.
I understand. Mine's a tough one. Giovanna Guarino,
Oh,
Stonehenge
God.
Drive. I don't have a lot to say tonight. I have a lot of paperwork for you, articles from New York Times, other places. I don't have to repeat my opinion. I think everybody knows it. What I do want to say, though, is that I can appreciate all these people that are here for it. I understand it's a great thing for everybody. There is another side of that coin, and that's the problems with pickleball. Again, I won't repeat them. I know you all know my opinion. But I think it was the wrong place to put pickleball. There's danger, there's traffic, there's noise, 15 hours a day. Judy and I had a great conversation this morning. She's very sympathetic to this, and they know. They even think 15 hours a day is too long. I have pictures of lights in my bedroom window, pictures of parking, and you had asked me if I had measured the decibel level. Well, I have now. 72.9. This morning it was 68.4. 68.4 in my bedroom. I'm about 100 feet from the courts. It comes and goes. If you have children or novice people, it's lower, but it's still 15 hours a day. And you get those serious pickleballers, and they love to whack a ball. I know it's fun, but we can't listen to that. And Andrews Avenue becomes one lane when cars are on both sides. And I have pictures of that for you as well. I think the toughest thing for this council is to admit that it was a mistake, and I don't think anyone knew it was going to be. And I know it's great for a certain community, but it's got to be someplace it's safe. And our children are not safe there, and I'm not someone who's willing to listen to it 15 hours a day. I think it needs to go where there's parking, needs to go where there's noise, already athletic noise, Dorset Park, Wheeler Park. Even Chris Tudor said it was a blunder. So, with that said, I'm not turning in my petition yet because I'm still working on it, but there are articles, there are pictures, and I apologize to anyone that takes them.
Did you write down the time of day that light was on?
10 o'clock.
10 o'clock. Okay.
Just before. Sometimes it goes off a little after 10.
Okay.
Because I think when they set it for 20, it gives them that 20. I've seen it go off at 10, 15.
Yeah.
But that children go to bed at 7 and 8 o'clock.
There's a thing on the.
I don't know who's speaking.
Are these copies from?
We can have these.
You can have
Okay,
this.
right.
Yeah, I printed them. for you.
He's got the other ones down.
Anyway, I think it needs to be moved to a place that's good for everybody. It's up and coming, and a small group of people used to play. It never caused any issue. They posted. We knew them all. They'd come, they'd play, they'd go. And it wasn't an issue. But 15 hours a day, groups coming and going, that's a huge issue. And you may not have known it was going to happen, but you know now. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Who's next? Who would like?
Can I get your address again? I didn't hear it.
Stonehenge. But as far as Tanglewood, they hear it.
Oh, I hear it.
You do hear it?
I love it.
Who would like to speak next? Raise your hand. Come on up.
I'm a new resident at J16 Stonehenge. We bought last October.
Can you tell me your name, please?
Sure, Laura and Ray Weinstein, my husband. So we recently bought at Stonehenge. I have to tell you, we live in Delray Beach. I am somewhat of a 6 month.
Can you spell your last name because I didn't catch it?
Sure, Weinstein.
Okay, Weinstein.
Yes, and we own J16 Stonehenge
J16.
Drive.
Okay, thank you.
And we love the community, but I do want to tell you that we're avid pickleball players in Delray Beach. We probably do play 2 to 4 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I do want to say that we bought in the community, and I feel terrible. I really feel terrible, but we bought in the community because of the pickleball courts. I mean, they were walking distance from our house. They're 5 minutes away. The pickleball sound to me is a happy sound. People who play are extremely happy people. It's a very fun sport, enthusiastic. It started really 55 and older down in Florida, and it really spewed good health. I do believe it's really for happiness, so I'm really very pro it. I understand the problems, and sorry about that. And hopefully they can be fixed by us. I know there's a new facility at the Edge, and I went to an open house they had last Friday, and what they did is they put soundboard, because they're around the Twin Oaks community, and they put soundboard as well as a screen, and you cannot hear from the parking lot what's going on there. That could be a solution. I don't know how much it costs, etc. I just know for my health, I'm very happy to know that they're a 5-minute walk. So, but I'm sympathetic to what went on.
Great, thank you very much. Who would like to speak next? Somebody's getting up. No, they're not. Please come up.
My name is Chris Tudor. I live in 7 Catkin Drive in South Burlington.
Can you repeat that name again?
Chris Tudor, Tudor.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
I'm an ambassador for the USA Pickleball Association for the Northern Vermont. The issues of noise, it's a nationwide problem for pickleball, and we recognize that, and we're trying to take measures to deal with the problem, and so that we don't make our neighbors upset. The issue at Szymanski Park is a two-pronged problem. One is the noise, and the other is definitely the parking. Okay, so when the courts were redone, we thought there was only going to be 2. It ended up being 4, and I don't think I know that was done with great, good intentions, because pickleball is growing so fast. But no one considered the parking situation, and no one thought that the use of the courts was going to be maximized. I mean, it's like, and wherever you go, pickleball's become such a popular sport that wherever there's courts, they're getting used, and they're getting used to the maximum. So there's some things that could be done immediately to help with the noise abatement. We could get some curtains to put around the courts. Of course that would take funds and installation and all that. But we could do some limitation of the use of the courts, and maybe not have it go till 10 o'clock at night. Limit the hours. But I can guarantee you that as long as the Parks Department does not set limitations on the use of the courts, they will be used to the maximum, and that's what's happening. And we had no idea that it was going to be from 7 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. I mean, I've played there off and on for 7 years. I've never seen it so popular. There are days there, though, where there's some 40 people there, and the parking lot only holds, 6 or 7 cars. So, living in a neighborhood like that, I understand their issues with parking. I mean, if you park within 50 feet of an intersection, you're illegally parked. And I know people are parking right next to the intersections. But still, even the cars that are legally parked are an inconvenience for the people that are still living there. So that's something we've got to deal with. So, potential solution might be to limit the number of people that are at the courts at any one time by using a reservation system or something like that. But all this has to go through the Parks and Rec Department. As long as the Parks and Rec Department doesn't come up and say, we're going to limit the use of the courts to this many people during these hours, the courts will be used to the maximum. So we're going to have to, the pickleball community is going to have to work with the rec department to because all the pickleball players will abide by the rules, which we think we are. But until some other rules are in place, it's going to end up being like it is. So I think it's time that we as a community have to work with the rec department to set some different guidelines on how to use those courts. Okay. So.
Quick question for you. My understanding is there are mufflers for pickleball rackets. Can you tell me how effective they are and if they actually work?
There's three different things that the USA Pickleball Association is working on. They're working on using a different ball that's quieter, using a different paddle that's quieter, and noise abatement curtains or walls that are put around the courts. And they can reduce the decibel level by 25 decibels. Okay. So with your decibel reading, that would cut it dramatic.
That would be within
EPA standards. Right. So So that would be a help. But see, nobody's approached the rec department to say, hey, we need to make these changes. So I don't know who that would be. I mean, is it the pickleball community coming to the rec department? Is it the citizens in the neighborhood coming to the rec department? But they have to be directly involved because
I think we're in the right place now.
That?
I think we're in the right place now.
Okay, yeah. So as long as the rules are they as presently, it's going to stay this way. So we need to change those rules so that we can satisfy the neighborhood and we can satisfy the pickleball players, the community, because, and also wherever you put pickleball courts, they're going to get filled. So if it's like one of those build it and they will come kind of deals. So, the sport's growing immensely. I'm an instructor as well, and I'm constantly teaching beginners, and running people through. I've taught literally hundreds of people this summer in getting into pickleball. So it's not going to go away. So, but it needs addressed. We are getting some indoor and outdoor facilities with local businesses, so Catamount Pickleball and The Edge, and they're making money off of this. So, so we're trying to move some of that traffic over there, but still, with the convenience of the park being, for local residents, just like lady that spoke over there, people gather to, around these things because it's so popular. And it's keeping people fit and it's keeping people active that wouldn't normally be active. And pickleball is a good thing, but we also have to look at the considerations of the neighbors. Okay. And I did see a video where someone was confronted. I just want to apologize for the pickleball community that all the people that I know in pickleball would not confront someone and with profanity or anything like that. So I just want to apologize for the pickleball community when that happened, because the people I know are very good people. Yeah. So what's that? No, I didn't say you did. There was an incident though reported.
Let's keep the comments. Let's keep the comments to me, please.
So, but anyway, I just want to apologize.
Yeah.
For the pickleball community, because
understand.
As a group, this is a very friendly sport, very social sport. But I just wanted to speak tonight to say that we got to get the rec department involved, and we got to change the rules. Otherwise, we're still abiding by the law.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that later. So thank you very much for your comments. Thanks. Somebody else in the audience want to speak? Then we're gonna go on. Oh, Linda Norris, please come on down.
You want to go? You're taller than I am.
Did you come because we had IT difficulties and you knew
Did
that?
you hear that? I did have IT difficulties.
Yeah, we did too.
Sign in online and I couldn't call in. Also.
I know it.
So
but you're here in person.
I'm sorry I'm late.
That's okay. You didn't miss
I
anything.
didn't bring any candy. I usually bring candy when I come to your meetings because
So state your name for the record, please.
My name is Linda Norris. I live at 4 Wheatley Road in South Burlington. My husband and I and our family have lived here for 29 years and love South Burlington. And I first of all thank you all for your time, because coming out here on a Monday night when we could be playing pickleball is another thing. Actually, I did come from the Edge recently and talked to the president there. And Chris does an incredible job as our ambassador. And I asked Mike Feidelberg about how it's going, and he said it's unbelievable. And I said, well, I know he's got 8 new courts outside. All right, we have 4 at Szymanski, as I think you all know now, which is not enough for the volume of players we have in our community. I started about 7 years ago with Chris. He and some of these people taught me how to play, so I thank you all for that. I've been around to Essex, Williston, Burlington. Everybody has more courts than we do, as South Burlington is the 2nd largest city in the state. And for public access courts, we have a dearth of them, and we need to expand it. And Adam Math is the head of the rec department, a wonderful hire, a great young man. I don't think he's here, but if he is here. Oh, Adam, he's an incredible guy. I'm sorry I gave your name out. He's really awesome, and I know I'm a pain to him because I keep telling him about some things, but we really need to find some more courts for the city. I've been to a couple meetings proposing that we find some. We could put them at Farrell Park. We can put them at Dorset Park. There are a lot of places we could. And I just want to reiterate that the volume, I think, of play might come down with the Edge growth that they have there. So that's one thing to think about. Catamount also has it, but I think the Edge being closer, and with Mike has said, and I witnessed it, I don't know if you call it a soundboards on there are unbelievable. I don't know how much they cost. I'm sure they're not cheap, but they're an alternative to help with the sound. And to the lady, I would invite you to come down and bring your son down and hit some balls with us. We would love to do that. The community that plays this game is just unbelievable how nice they all are, how they are welcoming, and they don't want the neighborhood to be upset with us. We do anything for it. And so I'm saying, please come down and we'll all stop play and we'll show you how to hit the ball again if you would like to. Yes, excuse me. I'll just finish and then you can. The other part I wanted to say was regarding the traffic. I'm fortunate, as I say, 29 years ago, we would take down our daughters in strollers to Szymanski. And there wasn't much going on there, really, was the playground. But there were some tennis players because there were 2 courts there. So I was with probably the dozen of us or so that worked with Holly Reese over the years to try to get these courts. So I apologize if it's really offended people, because that is not the intent. It has been a huge success for, I think, the community. And I'm talking now about people I have talked to as I walk down there, I bike down there. They will the lights should be going off at 8 o'clock now. This is my understanding, is the lights should be going off at 8 o'clock on a timer.
I don't think so.
If they're not, they should be.
Yeah.
I went down today on my bike, every other day during dinner time, and it's getting reduced a little bit. At 4 o'clock today, nobody was playing today. Between 7:30 and 8:30, I tend to see a younger group there. They're like teenage boys, a few girls, some boys, but they don't know what they're doing. They're hitting it a lot of the time, don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to keep score, and it's really funny to watch. They're having a blast. And all I can think of is, wow, it's such a great thing for these young kids that they're not out doing some vandalism or something else that we would rather they not be doing. So while it started as an old people's sport, it's a young people's sport, really growing so very fast. So I hope we'll support it somehow, find some mediation to help the whole situation, and we're here to do whatever we can to make that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Anybody else in the audience? Come on up, please. Remember to tell us your name.
My name is Nancy Pollock. I live at 152 Laurel Hill Drive, about 50 steps from the court. And there's not a whole lot I can say that is different from what everybody else has said in the positive light. I will say that I have bird's eye view of the court, like right out my backyard. So I hear it all, I see it all. I am a recent pickleball player. Um, there is something to be said where when you focus on something that's super annoying, it just gets more annoying. So if you're going to focus on how loud that pickleball sound is, it's going to bother you. But I do encourage people to shift their mind frame to what I just heard about, where there is so much enjoyment, sense of community. Kids, adults are playing, doesn't matter the age. There's just so much happiness happening in my backyard, basically. That is not to say that the traffic on the Andrews side is not a problem as far as parking. I've never seen anyone speeding there, so I can't speak to that. And as far as the lights go, the lights are on, but not always for pickleball. There's kids that are out there playing, so I don't know how one manages that with the hours that it's on. My bedroom faces the backyard, so I see the lights on at 10 o'clock at night frequently. Doesn't bother me though. Because I just feel like I am so lucky to be next to a public municipal park that offers so much to the community. The other thing that I wanted to say was that I am really excited that lots of places in the community are building pickleball courts, but they cost money, and that's not available for everyone. So when we have so few public courts, I would hate to see anything happen to that availability for the public so people can play. I'd like, Chris, thank you for your wonderful article in the paper, or letter to the editor. If at Dorset Park there was such an opportunity to build more courts, I think that, yes, maybe it'll take some of the traffic, but probably not. They're just going to fill up too, because everybody is joining the crowd to play pickleball, and there's a reason for that. So I don't really have much else to say, but I thank you for listening to all sides of the issue, and I look forward to working with you to make pickleball a good thing for our community.
Thank you. Mr. Doyle, is there anybody online that wants to speak? Can you hold off just one second? Let me get somebody on. Yeah. So who wants to speak? Nancy?
It's Paula.
Paula online. You can address Maura. Who is it? Maura or?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you give us your name, please?
Yeah, my name is Paula Nenninger, and I live in South Burlington. I've lived here for about 20 years. I've raised my children in South Burlington. I often brought them to playgrounds when they were younger, but as soon as they got older, I stopped going to the parks. And then about 3 years ago, I took a lesson and started playing pickleball, and I ended up back at the parks again. And it makes me pretty happy to be back there. Szymanski Park has given me a safe location to meet community members. I exercise, I relax, I have fun, I laugh. Honestly, I've met more people playing pickleball than any other time in my life, people that I want to spend time with. As my kids are getting older and getting ready to leave the house, I thought it would be hard for me to make new connections, but pickleball has brought me a whole new world of friendships. And I hope we can work this out, come together and respect everybody. I think there's room for compromise with court hours, with soundproofing, adjusting parking. But, this park brings a lot of joy to a lot of people. And it keeps us healthy and it keeps us happy. And I just hope we can work together to find solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Mr. Doyle? Anybody else online?
Nancy has her camera on, but she's not indicating
okay.
if she wants to speak.
Right.
Hi, I'm sorry I missed the beginning of the Ryan Doyle. I live on Woodside Drive. Sorry I missed the beginning of the discussion, so if I'm redundant, just let me know. So I think it's really cool that people wanted to move in a direction with the parks as times change and we have new sports come up, and it's great that the city responded so quickly, even with the COVID crisis, to get courts in place. But what I've heard from going to the parks meetings and the city council meetings where citizens have come and complained about pickleball, in particular, the way it contrasts from other group activities in designed court spaces, it really is different from the offerings of tennis and basketball or the baseball fields that we have in parks. There, the noises are not nearly so frequent. The noises that do generate are more random in terms of the way people speak or move, as opposed to a lot of pinging. And because this is a really popular sport right now, there are a lot of demand bottlenecks. But I want to talk about that and traffic both separately. A lot of what we do in municipal government is we provide for things that the private market cannot provide very well. So when we have baseball fields, it's very hard to for a baseball field company to offer that, right? People just don't use it enough when you pay per usage. So we have basketball courts and baseball fields and playgrounds so that kids, neighbors, and community members can come out and get together. One of the reasons why tennis courts aren't used as heavily is because they are geared more towards adults, and there is a private market for providing that much more than there is for children activities in parks. Same with bike paths, right? Some people will pay to go bike somewhere nice, but in terms of connecting a neighborhood, we provide the bike paths as a municipality. What we have here is a sport that's really popular and is so popular that private entities are able to build new infrastructure and provide it. And there's so much demand that they can continue doing that. And so there's that distinction of, if we lived in a community where that wasn't being provided by businesses, then maybe we would have to think about it. We look at places like St. Albans, they're operating a ski hill and an outdoor pool. These are things that just weren't really accessible to enough people, so they provide as part of their municipal parks plan. The other thing is, when we look at traffic, I looked at the traffic data. Yeah, we aren't legally allowed to set the speed limit below 25, but a safe speed in a neighborhood is 18 miles per hour or less. We are allowed to design roads to the design speed of 18 miles per hour. Burlington is doing that on East Ave right now, a very heavily trafficked road. They're making a lot of investment in slowing down vehicle traffic in a way that makes them have to pay attention more. And if we're going to have popular destinations tucked within neighborhoods, the city should be equally responsible to build the infrastructure into the street to definitively slow vehicles down to a safe speed or lower. That's 18 miles per hour. The fastest speed there was double the safe speed. That means a person has an 85% chance of being killed if they're struck. If that's a child, that's nearly 100%. That's really bad. And so I realize that this is a popular sport, and a lot of people are coming out to ask you to find ways to mitigate the negative externalities of it. But if you're really going to work on the negative externalities of both the sound and the traffic hazard, you're going to spend so much more money than probably building new courts in another area further away from residences. I want you to consider that, and also remember, this was a decision the city made. It's a decision the city can undo. And there's lots of other things the city has done to undo, like the rental registry, which is a lot of effort to keep Airbnbs out of neighborhoods, even though they aren't so nearly so
Let's not
consistently
steer off into
noisy.
rental registry if we can avoid it, okay?
Well, like I said, a lot of time, but it's less
you're
noise.
3.5 minutes now.
So if you can, please think about the negative externalities and your ability to undo something that you've already done. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, did Nancy want to?
Nancy's off mute. So
Nancy, online, did you want to say something?
she is now muted.
You're still muted. Can you find your mute button? There you go.
Okay, thank you. I live at 8 Oak Hill Drive.
Can you give your last name?
Sure, Phelan, Phelan. I'm about 75 yards, I'd say, from the pickleball courts. And I play 4 or 5 times a week, so I should say that up front. But last summer, my partner and I found that people were playing at 6 a.m. and people were playing at 11:30 at night. So we did call Parks and Rec and ask them or let them know that we were unhappy with the hours. And I understand that was changed, and I think could be changed further. I think 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. would be pretty reasonable. It'd still be 12 hours, significantly less than the 15. So I think that would be helpful. I think people could also park. The north end of the park, there's a spur of the bike path that connects the Laurel Hill Cranwell intersection to Stonehenge. And I think people could park up to 4 to 5 cars at each of those spots, which would relieve the traffic and parking pressures on Andrews Ave. Everyone else, I think, has spoken really eloquently about the great positive benefits of pickleball. So I'll stop there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nancy. Anybody else online? Okay, and anybody else here? Oh, there's somebody who wants to talk in the audience. Come on up and remember to give us your name.
My name is Jerry Spring. I live on 123 Economo Farm Road. I'm sorry, could you, I'm not in the audio, could you tap the base of the mic?
Is it green? Bright? No, press it again.
It's green, okay.
That's good. First name again?
Jerry Spring.
Gary Spring.
123 Economo Farm Road. I'm recently converted to pickleball a couple of years ago.
From what?
Handball.
Okay.
And working and a bunch of other snowboarding, etc. And I met Chris a couple of years ago and said, well, why is it so busy? He says, I'm teaching 50 people a week. You think it's going to get a lot worse? It's going to be hellacious. And he's right. So there's so many more people playing. I played at Szymanski and I liked the place. It's a very nice court. But I think that one of the other things I'm doing is I'm taking PT for a knee, and my PT happens to live in the neighborhood. And I'm under duress from her that actually not, but I think Szymanski ought to be partly dedicated to the community it serves there. I think that pickleball is fine, but I think 8 hours is sufficient. And my PT's got young kids. I think the kids ought to be able to go to play at the park at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock. But I don't think it needs to go to 10 o'clock at night. So that's the only thing I would offer. And I think the parking is a problem. And I think there's a couple of different ways people can park and walk. Overlook Park, you could park there or on that street. You could park over in Stonehenge so you don't have 15, 18 cars going in that neighborhood. I think it needs to be dispersed. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you.
I have to say, there's no parking in Stonehenge. We each get an indoor place and an outdoor place. That's all we have. I think we're parking on our grass.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Adam is here. Adam, why don't you come down and we can talk about dials and switches that we have at our disposal and what the current state is of the courts and the infrastructure around the courts and what the perspective from your department is.
Tim, there was another gentleman, Todd, who wanted to make a comment.
Hold on a second.
Hello?
Is it Todd? Is that Todd?
It is.
Todd Denninger?
Hello?
Hi,
It is
Todd.
Todd Denon. Good to see you, Tim. Thank you.
Your wife just spoke earlier?
She did just speak earlier. And I think I just want to at least weigh on you folks that Tim have for years lived as your neighbor at 73 Royal Drive and actually ended up building a house over on 33 Stafford Street. And we also started playing pickleball about 3 years ago. We bike over to the park. We play with a number of our neighbors from the cider mill, now playing with a number of my neighbors from South Village. There's a number of neighbors all around that. And as I think of a community asset, I can't think of anything that could be defined more so than an asset that brings the community together, which is exactly what it is. And it's a race us to the point. What I'm really hoping, and I'm really, really hopeful for, and I think we all are, which is to find somewhere we can all meet in the middle and make this work for the folks, the neighbors, as well as for the community members that really value that asset. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. So Adam, one more. We're going to close it at this because we got to keep going.
Thank you. My name is Derek Senior. I live in Shelburne. So
Repeat your name, please.
Derek Senior.
Derek?
Yeah, I've been a Shelburne resident for about 30 years. I live just on the border. I live about 3 miles away from Szymanski Park, and I play there. I'm like a lot of other folks here. Love the sport. Play there almost every day. It's almost my second home, and I consider it a privilege to play there. I mean, we have our own problems in Shelburne where we've had, our tennis courts being occupied by a lot of other townsfolks. So I realize there's some issues here with people who don't live necessarily in South Burlington using Szymanski Park. But the pickleball community, as you've seen, we all know each other. I mean, we're really a tight-knit group. A lot of us play there regularly. We know everyone. We all share information, together. And I think we have a responsibility to make sure that we are good, sports-minded folks using that community. And I think there's a couple of things that we can do to help mitigate, not as permanent solutions, but as a starting point to show that we are a responsible group of players. And I think that's through messaging. I think there's two ways we can do that. One is that we can put posters up. With Andrew's help, sort of put together some ideas here in terms of just putting a message to pickleball players and tennis players in terms of what needs to happen. And as well, messaging through, I even myself, I have my distribution list includes almost all the pickleball players in South Burlington, and that message can be passed on. And what is it we want to message? I think immediately we can message that we need to respect the fact that we need to drive less than 20 miles an hour or 18 miles an hour, whatever that may be, to slow down, respect the community, and be courteous to the neighbors there. Second, I think we should only use the parking spots that are available there and not park up street. As other folks have mentioned, there are other places that have access points to Szymanski Park, whether it's the Overlook, Stonehenge. There are some places there that are more public. I actually went there and spoke to a few people this afternoon. There's places for about 5 cars that don't encroach upon residences, and there's also the Laurel Hill area where I think 5 to 6 cars could easily park there, and sort of mitigate and take that away. And I would go even further. I would say that maybe it's an idea that I think, Andrew, you came up with, which is to maybe limit in Shelburne at our beach, you have to have a sticker to park there. We don't have that for our tennis courts, but maybe that'll change. Or for our pickleball courts, which are coming up next year, hopefully. But there could be a sticker situation where folks like myself, Shelburne, cannot use that parking spot and have to find other ways to get into the park. And I think that would be totally reasonable. If I was a resident living in that area, I seen the growth there. It's pretty shocking. I'd want to try to mitigate that, notwithstanding the fact that it's an incredible sport and we all love it and it's a great community builder. So I think those are certainly a few things that could happen almost immediately that we basically can self-regulate through messaging, putting up posters, and through using our distribution list to let people know to take responsibility, right now and help solve the problem. That hasn't happened to date. So I think that could be some immediate action that could hopefully help start to slow and bring some solutions to the problem at hand.
Does Chris have the same email distribution list that you have?
We all have, we all know if I'm, yes, I'm
just talking about from a communication point of view. If things change in the future, how would we push that out to the public? I want to make sure that you two have enough of a distribution to cover 80%.
I think this is an important enough issue. I think, it's such an incredibly popular sport. And there's a deep, deep love for the sport amongst those of us that play there regularly or play anywhere. And, I think we all want to do, as I speak for pickleball players, I think everyone here will agree with me, we want to do the right thing and make sure that we can continue playing there and have a win-win. And so part of that is making sure that we're sharing. If we're sort of missing somebody, have other pickleball players share that message around. I think it'll go like wildfire, and everyone will get the message quickly. I think we need to do that repeatedly, not just once, but do it repeatedly so people get the message, and we can self-regulate and make sure that if someone's parking somewhere, we're calling them out and making that happen.
Thank you. Just as a resident of Shelburne, if you spend too much time at Szymanski Park, I'm going to charge you property tax.
I'm already paying enough.
Our tax rate is 0.019779 for the fiscal year 25. So I don't know how much land you're occupying at the park, the pickleball court. Is it a quarter of the pickleball court? Because it's about $200 a year right there.
All right, good.
Are you going to have shots here on the speed?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, maybe they could come down at the same time. Is that right? Does the chief want to come down and share the speed data at your leisure? So let's stop with the input. I think we have really good input from everybody so far, and I just want to thank everybody online and in the audience for not being adversarial, because we've had issues before that become very combative, verbally, and this has not been that, and I appreciate that. And I also appreciate both sides of the story, especially for the I know that, yeah. So Adam is here to talk about the current state, and the chief has some data on the traffic speeds. And do you want to take it from there, Adam?
I mean, are there specific questions or things you want me to answer?
So we have a memo in front of us which kind of it elucidates what some of the options are we have for making changes, right? So do you want to go through those one by one and just highlight?
Could you actually first maybe just set the foundation? What are the hours? When do the lights go on? When do they go off? And what rules have we already posted in terms of the nature play? So just the foundation.
So the lights are available to turn on at 7 p.m. and turn off at 10 p.m. It's through a button, and it's a 30-minute running clock. And then at 9:30, that's the last time you can set it for 30 minutes. As far as the timing of the courts, all of our parks are open dawn to dusk. Nothing is locked. Nothing is, there's no staff to enforce that people are abiding by those. There is, I've frequently, which probably isn't going to be the most popular comment here today, I frequently go to this park since this conversation has been happening. It is very popular at times, but it also is not 24/7 as popular as we're making it seem. I go there often at 8, 9, 9:30, and it's not being used to the frequency or that the lights are on every day at these times.
And I'm sorry, I also know that there is some, the city has posted some rules about play. Can you describe
So
those?
we've posted some rules which are a little different, and they're actually more conservative than surrounding city parks. So when it is busy, we have signs that first Playtime Scheduler is like an online app that pickleball players use. We do have a sign posted there that does not reserve our courts. That's separate from us and doesn't go through the rec department.
So we don't recognize that the city.
No, because it's not going through the rec
that
department.
app as a scheduler for that court. Yes, it's first come first serve, and there's a way to.
So it's first come first serve at our courts. We do have a sign that says if it is busy and there are people waiting, you're limited to 30 minutes or up to a game of 11. We also recently this spring put up it's basically like a paddle holder that people can cycle through to keep their line in turn. I've gone to other community parks, whether Essex, Williston, Colchester. The timing that I've seen, that if they've had anything posted, it's an hour limit. So we've taken it down on our end. As far as the lights too, that is something that I think is important to talk about. During the summer, you don't need the lights until post 9 o'clock. So when we're talking about limiting the hours of this park from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., unless someone is physically there, you're still able to play post 8 o'clock. Or if someone's locking the gates, there's nothing you can do. It's light out. So you can easily play post 8 into 9 o'clock without the lights.
Do you have the ability to change the maximum, the latest time that they can push the button?
Yeah,
we know how to. That's easy to do.
Yeah, I mean we can. Just the majority of the summer, you really don't need them.
We have that ability. So
Yeah, I mean, we could push the lights to cut off at 9 o'clock.
Right.
Or
that would mean that the latest they could push was 8:30 to get the
yeah,
last half.
yeah. So that
Can you control how much time is on the light, or is it always always a half an hour and you control the
that I would have to check, but right now it's set for 30 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. So we have the ability. Well, we can post hours that are different. Or we can change the hours. But we can't control that because we don't have any way to monitor.
I mean, that
right?
also would then, I think, lead into a conversation around JC Park, where we also have lights. So if you're going down this route with Szymanski, then you would also have to adjust JC Park as well, because those lights stay on past 10 o'clock or up to 10 o'clock as well.
Right, but we don't have any complaints at JC Park.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
so,
what stop?
We can change the hours. We can change when the light, the maximum time that the light can stay on till, and when would possibly have to go on. And we don't adhere to the app that's for scheduling, so it's first come first serve. So we do have some distinct rules there. Okay. There is a question about sound padding, and we've had some testimony tonight that said that the Edge has, I guess, installed some on some outdoor courts. Do you have any new data on that, on the cost per square foot, or?
I do. So I've gotten a couple quotes. So they range from $7 to $11 per square foot. I have reached out to the Edge. I also asked for samples of this material.
Okay. Can you describe it to us?
I mean, it's a sound blanket, more or less. I have some upstairs.
Is it just like a plastic, like a mat with something in the middle?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so it would tie onto the fencing
and hang down. So the question would be, as far as how much surrounding the courts you would want to do, whether it would just be the pickleball side or the entire way. But once you also, I think we have to not look at Szymanski as the only park. We are trying to increase our neighborhood parks, and it's in the city plan to have a park within a quarter mile of all of our residents. And now we're going down the slope of having issues with parks in neighborhoods. So I think this is a bigger conversation as well.
Have you had a chance to visit the Edge?
I have not, but I was emailing Mike today, so I was going to plan on doing that.
Do you know if they have any extra stuff that we could look at and try that they haven't installed yet?
I don't know. It is installed. So
could we take down one of their mats and bring it down and just try it?
Try it out, maybe.
We don't know yet. So Lori has a question.
The mats for the walls. Square footage price doesn't really give me an idea of what this is going to cost. Can you?
Yeah. So if you were to go all the way around, and don't quote me exactly on this, but it would be around $11,000 to $15,000 to go all the way around the courts, because there's also the tennis courts, which you would also be.
But that might not be necessary.
It might not, but I would lean on doing the entire thing until you have neighbors on the other side who would want it as well.
Yep.
So I have a couple of comments about this conversation, and I'm a strong proponent of having parks within a quarter mile of every resident of the city, and I think it's really important. I think the gentleman from Shelburne made a very good point that it's incumbent on all of us to be good neighbors. And as much it is wonderful for people to be able to have fun and have joy and have community connection, it is also important for people to be able to enjoy their quality of life. And while there are things that we can do to start to control some of these issues, I think the notion that the pickleball community needs to maybe step up and look at what they can do to mitigate their impacts and say, we care about the neighbors around here and we're going to do what we can to make sure that we're not disturbing them, is important. And I think that the parking issue is a completely separate issue that needs to be addressed. If we have 5 parking spaces for a a need of 15 or 20 cars, that's a problem that needs to be addressed somehow. And Chief, you'll talk about car safety and what we can do about that. But as much as I really want everybody to enjoy their sports, I also want everybody to be able to enjoy their lives. And I believe we need to find the balance. And to say that whether it's a music venue or whether it's whatever it is, that the community is really enjoying it, so it doesn't matter how it impacts a small portion of the population, I think is a bad calculation for us as humans. So I just wanted to throw that out there and say that we need to find that solution that will satisfy as much as possible all sides of this issue.
Thank you, Lori. You're going to have to come up. Yeah, because we can't hear you, and the people at home can't hear you. Yeah. You should identify yourself again. Yep. Bright green.
Laura Weinstein. What they do in Florida is no courts are ever built without parking spaces. Parking spaces come before anything. So that may be what you want to do future-wise. Wherever we add new courts, parking spaces are first.
Yeah. Well, like the gentleman from Shelburne said, I mean, there are other places to park, and if you can play pickleball, you should be able to walk to the pickleball court from Overlook Park or from Deerfield, and I don't think there's a prohibition of parking on the up or downhill side of Deerfield. So there are alternatives, but you might have to communicate with each other to determine whether it's kind of full down at Szymanski. So, Chief Burke, did you want to tell us about the study that was done in that neighborhood?
Certainly. For the record, my name is Sean Burke. I serve as your police chief. So as early as 23, we began to receive some information about concerns pertaining to traffic in the neighborhood of Andrews Avenue specifically. We did some in-person with our traffic safety officer, in-person monitoring of the conditions in the neighborhood. The traffic safety officer did not identify any violations that would warrant action. We'll fast forward to 2024. The complaints persisted in the neighborhood. We deployed our speed trailer, which you've probably seen around in different areas in the city. It does have a data capture. As part of the memo, the data report is included here, and you will see that there is largely high compliance with the posted speed limit of 25 miles per hour. 25 miles per hour is of note because that is the lowest the municipality can post any speed limit. Average during the operating period of the speed trailer, which was mid-May to late May, 13.72 miles per hour was the average. Again, when you sit and monitor speed, especially in a residential neighborhood such as Andrews Avenue, would 25 miles per hour look quick? It does, but it is lawful. I think that the takeaway here is that the design of the city street is what it was engineered to be whenever that neighborhood was built. It is appropriately posted 25 miles per hour. And from a traffic enforcement perspective, there are no violations that would warrant enforcement. Dedicated enforcement or more directed patrol would have really zero impact on what neighbors are perceiving as a traffic issue in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
Do you have any suggestions for what either we as a council or we as a public works department or we as a city can do to help alleviate some of the issues that the neighbors are experiencing?
I would always defer to the Department of Public Works before you contemplate any traffic calming measures. I will tell you that it's quick to jump to maybe we should narrow the street or maybe we should put in speed tables. Those also have unintended consequences that we see in other neighborhoods where, for an example, speed tables, then the perception is the cars speed between the tables, right? Because there's a rapid deceleration and an acceleration. And in most cases, we would see very similar speed data from our trailer, suggesting that everyone is in fact operating below 25 miles per hour.
So I hear that you don't really have any suggestions for what we might do to alleviate the problem for the neighbors.
I do not, but again, I am not a traffic engineer.
Yeah. Okay. What's that? You have some?
Elizabeth, do you have some comments?
No, I was just going to comment though that I was biking today in the cider mill neighborhood, and there are a number of black and yellow signs posted on the city-owned area before the sidewalk that are, slow down type signs. And what was notable to me, I don't know who posted them and are they approved. They're kind of a little
Slow down for the kids. Yellow lawn signs.
They're lawn signs, but they're smaller and they're on closer to the curb. And I think what was impactful to me about seeing them was the volume of them. And my sense is, I don't know the history of how they're posted or who initiated that. I thought you might actually, Tim, but one of the things I noted about it, just biking, was it was very visibly evident that this neighborhood, who does have wider streets, was concerned about people exceeding the 25-mile-an-hour limit. So I bike there frequently. I see cars there frequently, and my impression was that could be at least sort of a short-term sort of retraining type mechanism for areas that were seeing a fair amount of traffic there, where there was new or renewed concerns by neighbors about exceeding a speed limit or needing to slow down. And that was something I hadn't seen around the city before.
Thank you. Sounds like you have some ideas.
Yeah, thanks. So before I share some thoughts, Adam, have we done any official decibel measurements of the sound?
On the rec department side, no, we haven't.
Has the Department of Public, has the city done any at all? Not
No,
that you know of?
no.
It'd be useful to take an official measurement. Next time we talk about this, I'd really like to know what that is.
Do we have equipment for that? Well, yeah, there's
but there's a more professional way of doing that.
Yeah, I would.
A sound
I would
meter
have to
that's handheld.
check. I don't know if we have the equipment.
We should, because our rules have decibel measurements in various parts of the city at various times. So I hope we would have one. But okay.
Yeah.
So I want to make some comments, and just for the community to kind of know where these comments are coming from. I am a pickleball player. Derek alluded a few times. I know lots of folks that play pickleball. So I have a pretty large pickleball distribution list, and I have a good sense of the community. Have had many conversations around this issue with many players. As Chris said and others have intimated, this is a community that really does care and wants to be good, responsible neighbors. And I think if we set some rules, even if we don't necessarily have enforcement, I think the vast majority of the players will self-police and will follow rules. And if we set good rules, that will have the effect of significantly mitigating some of the problems that have been articulated, even if we don't think we can necessarily enforce them. So I want to put that out there. So the issues that I see are noise, traffic, parking, safety, and also potentially kind of crowding out a little bit the neighborhood feel for the park, having just some neighborhood kids being able to play there when they're all taken up by people that are kind of descending, right, from playtime schedule app to play there, and not really leaving room for the neighborhood in effect. Those are kind of, and those issues have been articulated, but that's what I see. And I think honestly all of those can be addressed to a large extent. So the first key thing that I think would be really important is to limit the ability for on-street parking in the immediately budding neighborhood, Andrews Avenue, surrounding streets, to South Burlington residents. We can get parking stickers for folks. So if you make it that you have to be a South Burlington resident to park there, that will eliminate the parking issues and the traffic issues in that neighborhood. And as folks have said, if people want to come from Shelburne, Charlotte, surrounding communities to play pickleball, there's plenty of other places to park. So people can still play, people can carpool, people can bike, but by dispersing the parking and limiting the parking to residents in that community, I think it solves the parking and traffic issues. In terms of noise, then, and kind of neighborhood crowding, I think we should limit the hours. I don't think we need to close the park. I don't think we need to lock the park. I also don't necessarily think we need to shut the lights. People may want to play tennis there, or maybe there's some kids who want to play. But I think if we post, and as Derek said, if we post that the pickleball hours are, say, what I would do, 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., or thereabouts, and we let people know that, I believe that the pickleball community will follow that rule. I really do. I don't think you're going to have masses of people showing up at 7 in the morning to play if we post that you can't play before 9 a.m. And I don't think you have people playing till late at night if we post that you can't play after 8 p.m. There may be some random kids or random people playing, but you're not going to have that volume. You're not going to have the volume of noise before 9 a.m. and 8 p.m. if we post it. I also think that, kind of consistent with our rule that we've posted about 30-minute play, that we should limit group size. I'm personally aware that on Playtime Scheduler, people can post, that a game for all 4 courts at a particular time. And 20 people will descend on those courts, basically crowding out really anyone else, any neighborhood kids that want to use it. I personally think that's not courteous to the neighborhood, so I think we should limit group size, and I would say limit group size to 10 and 2 courts. We can even do something smaller, but to me that seems like the right way to do it, the right compromise for that. I actually bought a pickleball muffler to test it out. It's something you put on the paddle. It's got some padding. It works to mitigate the sound. It made the racket really heavy. It kind of really stressed my forearm, actually, and it made the play a lot slower than that. So I may use that if I play Szymanski, which I sometimes do, just because. But I was thinking, should we require that? I don't think we can. I think it changes the play too much, and I think it just will affect. It could affect people physically. It makes the racket really heavy. So those are my thoughts. Someone also mentioned, moving the porta potty. I don't know why the porta potty is in the parking lot. It should be moved behind the courts where it was last year.
I have an answer for that. When the cars are parked in the parking lot, due to the demands that we've heard today, if cars parked where the porta potty currently is, as well as right behind it, PNP Septic has an issue getting into the park. So PNP Septic is the one that wanted the porta potty there.
To pump it out?
Yeah. So it's either not always getting pumped out, or we could move it.
We need to figure out a solution to the porta potty.
Yeah. I mean, Yep. That was, I did have a conversation. That is where PNP Septic preferred it.
So
go ahead.
I just want to say, I really hope that we as a council could give some direction to make some of these changes. And I really think the pickleball community will understand this community asset needs to work for everyone and self-police, and it will be effective if we were to articulate that.
One more idea to add for what you were putting out, Andrew. The pickleball community is really receptive, which I am thrilled about. They are also all athletic, which is fabulous. One way to eliminate parking is to have people who live in South Burlington ride their bikes. There is a bike path that is directly adjacent to
many
the
people
pickleball nets, and if it could be put out that please do not drive here if you have an alternative.
Yeah.
It could make a really big difference for everybody.
Oh, I'm sorry. One more thing. I would like
Mike's
real
online.
cost data on the
mats.
The proofing. I mean, if it's from my perspective, if it's $10,000 to save the neighborhood from this noise for the next whatever umpteen years, that makes a lot of sense.
And Mike's online. Mike.
Yes, thank you, Tim. Adam, this question is directed to you. A lot of good ideas have been put out here on how to mitigate a lot of these challenges and to find the proper balance, and I'm definitely for that. I was just wondering, in terms of the master plan, obviously we have heard here some things that, were unexpected or in hindsight could have perhaps been handled a different way. Is there the operating assumption that in the master plan, there'll be proposals for additional pickleball courts in South Burlington? And obviously, lessons learned would come from this, I would assume.
Yeah, I mean, that would be through the open discussions and forums, depending on what the public is asking for within our parks. It is possible that through those conversations, more pickleball courts would come up through the Parks Master Plan, yeah. One thing I will also mention, when it comes to like proposing policies that we aren't going to enforce, I think that's going to put a lot of challenge on the rec department or the police department as far as who's enforcing these, who's getting the calls. If it's not something where we're technically locking, but we're just going to put a sign up that says pickleball is only played from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., you're going to cause more of a back and forth between people, or I'll be getting phone calls. The police department will be getting phone calls as well.
But Adam, we already have rules like play limited to 30 minutes, 11-point games, power ladders, and those rules are self-policed.
Yeah, but it's not you're not allowed to play anymore.
Adam, if I may jump in here, sorry, Andrew. I think what could be enforced is obviously the rules about parking. If there's a sticker that incentivizes other people to go at that areas, as well as the sound mitigation. In terms of, having people not be there, you can make suggested hours. But I agree with you. Someone will obviously want to complain when people violate it. But in terms of parking and noise, which I think would take us a long way in the right direction, and then obviously things to keep in mind in terms of how we position courts in the future, if there is a sort of a desire for more, be they in at Farrell Park or Vermont Veterans Memorial. But
thanks.
Would you agree that the parking, Chief?
I do have a reaction, if I might, on regulated parking. So resident-only parking is, something municipalities will turn to quickly. I will tell you that if you do it in one neighborhood, it will slowly begin, that appetite will roll through many others. Your police department is not resourced in any way to take on that enforcement. So that would have to be an entire conversation foundational to what department is this proposed parking regulation going to live in, and then what is the broader plan?
I do think that we can bring you back some, sound pricing to put sound mitigation in. We can look into getting some good information on the decibel levels, so we could, make sure so you have factual information or better information. I think those are two easy things. I would agree with the chief that resident parking or parking restrictions, without a parking enforcement division is a larger conversation I think we'd have to go to. So I think, what we can, and then, certainly like posting by rules, we can do something along those lines, but we have to know we're setting, it would be, we wouldn't be able to, we'd be not enforcing that. So it would be just, would not be able to respond to someone's complaint that someone's playing pickleball here at 9 p.m. No one's going to go there to enforce the rules. And I think that's Adam's concern. So we could post those things and have it self-police, but what we certainly can do is get some better information on decibel levels, and we can get you a solid price on sound mitigation. And as you consider perhaps end-of-year expenses for FY24 expenses, we could be able to get that done.
So I understand the concern around enforcement, but I know the pickleball community. I know dozens and dozens of players. The community does not want to lose access to these courts, and they want to be good neighbors. If we post a set of rules, I think it's highly likely the community will follow those rules. They will self-police because they will know they need to, or they're going to lose access to the courts.
So we've been talking about this for quite a while now, and I really appreciate all the input, both online and from the audience. And we have a few switches that we want to look at. One of them is get a real measurement on the sound with a real meter, not just a phone. Get some facts about the sound mitigation process or the mats that we have with the pricing, right? Maybe pricing for half or for full surrounding. We can change hours if we want to. Regardless of what we think will actually happen, we have the power to change the hours, and we also have the ability to change the maximum time that the light goes off. We also know that the pickleball community says that they're very tight with communication. So if we make changes, they will be able to easily push that out to all the players so that they'll know. And they'll also be able to push out other information such as that we've talked about. You know, if you think it's going to be crowded, if there's not going to be parking there, go park on Deerfield or Overlook Park. There's usually plenty of parking up there, and just walk down to the courts. And also about being good neighbors in that neighborhood. So I don't think we're going to change anything tonight, but I'd like, if it possible, I don't know what the August 5th,
So
the agenda is like on.
So we certainly can bring you back a recommendation around those 4 items that you just spoke about, and I'll try to get it on the August 5th if that works for Jesse, and if not, certainly at the meeting subsequent to that.
Right. So at that meeting, if we do have it, it's going to be very short, and we'll probably just state the things that, if we're going to change something, we'll say what we're going to change, and then we'll make sure that we get your email address and yours, Chris, so you can tell people, right? And I'm sure Adam would love to have your email address if he doesn't have them already, right? So,
and if we don't own the decibel equipment for sound measuring, it may have to push if you want that information.
I have
part
one.
Of the decisions.
You can borrow mine.
All right, thank you.
So,
having spoken to a sound engineer around this issue quite a bit, the ANSI app on the iPhone is very, very close to what a professional calibrated machine will do if we fall back on that.
Okay.
So
thank you. You have to come up and ask it and identify yourself again.
Nancy Pollock. Two quick questions. One about the maps. Are these something that are permanent, or do they have to be taken down and put back up every season? And what impact does that have on the rec department?
Yeah. So the mats that I've looked at, it's usually like a 5-year life cycle. So this would be roughly every 5 years we'd be replacing them.
Okay, so that's something to consider. And I don't know, I'm tired. I can't think of it with the other one was with the mats and the testing. I realized that the Edge had put them. Is the Edge out? Are they on the outdoor court? Because we want to test something that's a similar setup. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody, for that agenda item. I appreciate everybody's cooperation and their input. And thank you, Chief, and thank you, Adam. We're going to move on to item 10, which is discussion to receive a briefing on H875, the Municipal Code of Ethics and Changes to City Processes, with Colin McNeil, the City Attorney. We'll wait for people to leave, and if you're going to have talking, please move outside into the hallways. I would take a break and get a drink of water, but does anybody need a break at all? No? Okay.
Can I say one comment I forgot to say? Totally. 4 people came up to me who live around, when you said Deerfield, Tim, and all that area. They walk their dogs to Szymanski Park and all around in through there. They are not pickleball players. They know that I have a P on my forehead sometimes, so they say they saw Chris Tudor's editorial and said, please, if you do go to the meeting, let them know that we are so delighted with the park and how vibrant a park it is now. We used to be scared to go walk our dogs there, and even in the evening and everything. The basketball courts are being used. The playgrounds are being used a little later. Everybody is there, and it's a happening, fun place, not just for pickleball. So just know that.
Thank you. Colin McNeil.
Yes, thank you. I just want to provide a very brief overview of what was a recent law passed by the Vermont legislature. It's H875 or Act 171. related to a municipal code of ethics. Essentially, the legislature took it upon themselves to adopt a uniform municipal code of ethics, among some other caveats and components of the law. The municipal code of ethics we will be applicable to the city of South Burlington and all other municipalities beginning on January 1st of 2025. About 6 months, we will be subject to this. It's very similar to our own code of ethics for conflict of interest policy, which is applicable to elected and appointed officials. But the municipal code of ethics developed by the Vermont legislature is a lot broader. It applies to all municipal officers, and it lists all the municipal officers that it's applicable to in the law. Under the ordinance or under the statute, we will be required to undergo training that will be provided by the Vermont State Ethics Commission. We could do it ourselves, or we could rely on the one that they provide, but we would have to work in tandem with them about providing this. Based on when this law goes to effect, we have a certain amount of time to undertake this training. For instance, the council will have to take it, city manager will have to take it, deputy city manager will have to take it, and by September 30th of 2025. It sounds like from the website that there will be one available on the Vermont Ethics Commission website that we will be able to take virtually, but we'll find out. We'll be in coordination with them to see what trainings you need to take. There are a couple requirements of us beyond just being subject to the municipal code of ethics, the new municipal code of ethics. We're supposed to post it on our website, similar to what we've just gone through with the Vermont Public Meeting Law. We have to post it on our website. We have to adopt procedures on how to enforce and take complaints. We also must maintain a record of all the officers who have received the training. We must designate a person or group of people who are responsible for taking complaints. And we must maintain a record of all the complaints received and the actions that we've undertaken in response to those complaints. So, and we have to be able to provide this information to the Vermont Ethics Commission when they ask. So there's a decent amount of stuff that we will be required to do as a result of this, but we will be working with the Vermont Ethics Commission to make sure this is all done. We'll likely be back before you at some point before this law takes it into effect to talk with you about who should be designated as the contact person for complaints and coordinator. We will work that out among administration. We can work it out with you of who's the best body to handle these complaints. We provide some information in the memo. The Municipal Code of Ethics is there for you to look at. The Vermont Ethics Commission has also provided some good bullet point example or outlines of what is in the Code of Ethics and how to respond and what is a conflict of interest according to them. A lot of it is very similar to what we already have. The only other thing that we will likely have to do is we have our own policy. When this goes to effect on January 1st, 2025, we'd probably want to think about withdrawing our own policy and just relying on this rather than having two policies that are slightly different. But until that point, I think we want to keep our policy in effect so we can maintain the good ethical standards that we've been maintaining up until now.
The new law doesn't carry over to our volunteer city committees, does it?
It lists who it applies to. I don't believe it applies to voluntary committees.
So I was just trying to...
But it does, it's legislative body, quasi-judicial, and then it lists several municipal officers. I don't believe it applies to what we would call under the public records, non-advisory volunteer commissions.
It does apply to the cemetery commission, though.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
The sextons.
Yes.
Once again.
I mean, it might be smart just for when anyone's handling money or making decisions on behalf of the municipality that we recommend that they, especially if it's an online training, to just undertake the training. And we can keep catalogs of who has taken it and just make sure when we've given it.
So there's no junket to Hawaii for this training?
It doesn't seem like it, not yet. It does. There is a requirement that you have to receive, once you've received the training, you have to get it again within 3 years. Maybe the second one around is in Hawaii. We'll find out.
Are there any substantive changes to the ethics policy that you think are notable? So I mean, there's a lot of process, obviously. But are there any things that's missing in our ethics policy, or any changes that will, that are material?
I think we'll have to rely on the training a little bit to find that out. In looking at it, I'm not seeing anything that's that much different than what we currently have. It looks pretty consistent with if you feel you have a conflict of interest, report a conflict of interest. And then there's steps on how to address that that are a little bit more nuanced than what we have. But for the most part, it addresses the same thing. Be ethical. Don't accept bribes. Don't accept gifts. It lists a laundry list of what you should not accept or what you cannot do if it's going to be beneficial to you or a domestic partner or a business associate. So it's a little bit broader in terms of its definitions of what it's applicable to. But in terms of large scale changes from our own policy, I'm not seeing anything jumping off the page.
Mike has a question.
Well, I have a question. This sort of also goes back to sort of the previous question about the pickleball. If you put up rules, everyone understands the rules and will follow. I think this is great. In the federal government, this is something that we had to do annually, every year, had to be recertified because, definitions of what exactly is that, actually vary when you actually get into a conversation, or perceptions of what that is. I was just wondering, can you explain, will there be a process? You say it's every 3 years we have to get certified. Will it be, is the course just passive reading and absorbing, or is there a test? In the federal government, you have to take a test to show that you have gone through the steps, that you have an understanding of the examples, and therefore the ideas that everyone has a shared common example. And there they also would have the incentive being that if you didn't pass it by a certain time, you lost access to the computer, the internet, and obviously could not do your job. So I was just wondering how sort of focused and rigorous. I would welcome it. I think it was great. My experience in 30 years was that it was just a wonderful system and removed any sort of misunderstandings of people's respective interpretation of rules.
As of right now, Mike, I don't know if there will be a test. It doesn't seem like it from what they've published so far. But any training that we will have to undergo would be either approved or developed by the State Ethics Commission. And I think it would have to be what the consequences for not taking and not participating in the training isn't explicitly laid out. But I imagine that we would want to police it to make sure that everyone who has to participate in this training does undertake it, because we have to catalog that and provide it to the state. And for us, I think this is something that we'd want to be in compliance with. And so we'd take it upon ourselves to make sure that everyone who is subject to it did take the training that is required.
Thank you. I think that'd be very, very important. I mean, that's all about the trust of the people we serve.
Elizabeth, did you have any questions? No. Jesse would like to get in. Oh, let me just ask one more question. Do you know what caused this change? Is it just a natural process to go review these rules?
Jesse might know more. I don't know what was the driving force behind this. I know that it applies to municipalities. It doesn't apply to all municipal entities. And I don't know the reason for that. And I don't know. I mean, I would just be guessing if I.
And I'll note it doesn't apply to the actual people that pass the law.
We're talking about Fox and Hen House.
Jesse Baker's online. You look familiar. Did you have
I
a
am
question?
here. Well, I just want to provide a few more kind of background comments. Andrew, to your point about there isn't a lot of, this is a very process change for us, not a lot of content change for us. You have an excellent ethics policy now. The reason why I asked Colin to do this briefing for you now is because, and as I think you all know, I was pretty involved with the advocacy for this at the legislature. These process changes allow you to be very passive, allow all municipalities in Vermont to be quite passive about their internal conversations about ethical accountability and how they're going to hold each other to standards. So previously, the state statute said you had to adopt a local code of ethics that said these set of things. Now all you have to do is follow the state law. I think it behooves us to have regularly, annually at our organizational meeting, as Colin alluded to, a kind of a comment about that and an opportunity for you all to discuss and not have it be passively applied in South Burlington. I think that kind of going back to the pickleball conversation, that's how we police one another and hold each other accountable. And I think that this is a real loss for the state in taking some of those conversations out of the local government table and putting them solely at the state level. And it really did come out of the state ethics commission that was set up several years ago, and some concerns about fiscal management in smaller communities that many of us have probably read about. As Colin said, it does not apply to all forms of government in the state, and it does not apply to school boards and superintendents either. So I will be advocating strongly that while this is very processy, I think it's very important for good governance in our city for us to take a slightly active role.
Thank you. Any other comments? Anything else you want to tell us?
Nothing further.
We look forward to the training.
So do I.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you, Jesse, and I hope you're having fun wherever you are.
So let's move on to item 11, which is hold a general discussion of the first 4 months. Is it 4 now? So March, April, May, June, 11, July, almost 5 of the new council. We put this on here just to get a sense from council members, especially 3 new ones, including Mike, who's online, right? How you think things are going, what are some positive developments or some things that you have some light criticism about, or or like to see changed, or just opening up for a general discussion. I mean, I would say I'm pretty happy so far. I'm not doing the minutes anymore. That's a really big win for me. Mike's not showing his camera right now because he's scowling at me probably. And Mike's probably going to say, could you please tell me whether you like the minutes or not within 3 business days or 4 business days? But I think he had an idea with it last time. I appreciate how we're working together. I think that it's very cooperative. I like the range of opinions on things. So I'm the old guy on the board here, so I want to hear from you.
I'm a young guy, so I'll start. I think Elizabeth, you and I tie for the gray hairs. So
my kids say I'm an old man, but I feel
there you go,
young on the council.
I'm a young man in an old body. What can you say? So I perceive that maybe we are still in a honeymoon period. But to date, I'm really impressed with the way we are working together as a council. I really appreciate what feels like a collaborative effort to find solutions. And I haven't actually tallied, but I think we haven't had that many votes, but I think so far they've all been unanimous. And there was one that wasn't, but we're holding a pretty good record. And I think that the retreat that we had was really helpful for setting the agenda for the year, and I'm really excited to be part of the team.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, and one other thing. Tim, I think you're doing a great job as the chair, so there you go.
Thank you. I appreciate that even more. Thank you. Elizabeth?
Thank you for the opportunity to reflect on 4 months. It feels in some ways a lot shorter, in some ways a lot longer. I will have to say I came into this role expecting to know a fair amount about process, and I feel like I did bring that to the table about knowing about open meetings and taking public comment and things like that. The learning curve for me on city issues has been fairly steep, but I feel like the support that we've gotten in terms of onboarding has been very good. The department, I personally feel like I haven't had enough opportunity to really meet with is planning and zoning. And that is understandable given the priorities that Paul's team has had. When I get the agenda and realize the amount of work that Paul and his team have had to do to sort of prepare for the agenda, I realize why there's less accessibility there. That is an area I continue to look forward to, continue to learn. I think I continue to be really impressed with Jessie and her team in terms of the level of professionalism, as well as one thing that I haven't always seen in my public service days has really been even a consideration, let alone putting into practice succession planning. And that to me is an incredible strategic benefit that I think we have on the city side. Is I think we're thoughtful about bringing talent in and nurturing talent and having an idea of what the bench looks like in terms of succession planning. So that to me is really important. I've been pleased with the openness of looking at alternative ways to engage the community. And personally, I've felt very satisfied, and I hope two more of you got some experience with a coffee with a counselor. I think those are areas that I personally have an interest in. I think we as a council should continue to have an interest in how we engage with members of the community that can't show up at our meetings, who may not get engaged until there's a specific issue that's of interest. Tonight is a good example where I don't know how many times our pickleball community has shown up on other issues, but there's certainly a lot of passion around selective issues within the city that we may not even be aware of, and looking for venues to listen, I think, is important. And I guess my other area is I continue to look for ways to interface with our school partners as well. I think our schools are such a differentiator for our community, or have been, and I think can continue to be. I know I had an opportunity to talk with a school board member this past week about the school board is going to be considering formalizing the equivalent of a citizens budget advisory group, probably in the August timeframe, which is in advance of the budgeting process. And I know one thing I recommended is that that they leverage the business manager, Tim Jarvis's talents, to really develop kind of a baseline scenario of what next year might look like, with some guardrails around the unknown variables like yield and the weighted student, whatever the new equivalent of that is. Because I think we know that our shared taxpayer is in for some sticker shock next year. And I think we as city council members should be as aware of that as we go into our own budgeting process as possible, to really look at the shared impact of what both sides of the municipal equation need to move programs and school curriculum forward. So to me, there's a lot of exciting work to be done. I am very invigorated by the work. I'm doing a lot of homework behind the scenes. I appreciate getting to know each of my colleagues a little bit better in different ways, and would welcome those informal opportunities to interface on topics that are of interest to each of you, and then also to continue to engage with city staff. So thanks.
Thank you. Andrew?
I echo wholeheartedly the comments that Elizabeth made and Lori, so I'm not going to repeat all of those, but I think things are going well. I think we're a good, cohesive body. We have good conversations. I find this role to be very rewarding for those reasons. I think we got a lot done. Excellent city staff. So I don't really have much to say. I hope that I think the policy retreat was terrific, and I just hope that we move with due haste in implementing a lot of those items. I know we have to move at, a measured pace as a municipality, but a measured pace with due haste, knowing that these things are important to get done. Thank you.
Mike, are you there?
Yes, you are right, Tim. you can take back the notes anytime. There's no reason as the head of the chair of the, you can't also do the minutes. But thank you for agreeing to a deadline. The 10-day, which was a compromise, is in force. So let's not forget that. And I appreciate people agreeing to that. I guess my first comment would be whoever told me that this is 2 Mondays a month. I need to remember who that person was. I can't figure out who it was, but I wish I could. I think, it's a very impressive group that we are supported by in terms of the city and Jesse and her team. I think we've all said that, we all know that the professionalism is really, I didn't expect it. It's such the commitment, yes, but just the knowledge base and experience and the willingness to look at other areas to borrow from experiences. I didn't expect that at this municipality. It's really this eagerness and openness is very impressive. I think that if I would make one comment is as a new person, and is the onboarding was good. There was an effort, but I think there could be a little bit more. There's a lot of jargon that's unique to all the very different sections. And I definitely felt in the first couple of months, sometimes having to make decisions not quite clear on what exactly the subject matter. And, obviously we all feel that we have an obligation to the citizens to, be sound in our judgments. I think the effort to reach out is something I really was happy to see, that everyone on the council is very much interested in constantly looking to explore new ways to connect with our community and the diverse community they represent. I find that really exciting and uplifting. I appreciate the respectful and collaborative nature and speech and everyone being willing to listen to others and allowing everyone to express their voice. I also welcome the fact that there are ideas about how to increase our efficiencies by working with schools, and I think we have found out with Green Mountain Transit there are other ways that we can leverage other assets out there, because I think that's going to be important. The retreat, I thought, for me, was the most perhaps satisfying meeting we've had. I think it's conceptual. It talks about how we go forward. From my perspective, it would be great to have another one of those retreats, or almost even quarterly, because I think it allows us to have deeper discussions and sort of clarify perspectives on how we're going forward and leveraging new ideas. So I hope people would be open to having at least another retreat before we get deep into the budget process. But again, I think even quarterly would be a wonderful thing. But again, it's a time commitment on my part, but I'm definitely willing to make it. And the coffee for counselors, I would also say, is perhaps for me the other great fun. It's where you sit around and are forced to, or not forced, I guess you're sort of brought up into conversations and issues that never even crossed my mind. And being able to have the back and forth interactive conversations for me has been perhaps the most educational of my time here. So it's a fantastic opportunity to serve, and it's rewarding to see how committed everyone is to serving the community.
Thanks, Mike. And I'll just throw in one more couple of cents. So as chair, I wasn't sure how much extra time would be involved. It was more than I thought, of course, because like I said, I had to take a break a couple of weeks ago and not go to something because I'd gone to something like 10 days in a row, and my wife hadn't seen me for dinner, and I miss her cooking. But I just want to express my sincere appreciation to our city manager, because she makes things easy and she communicates very thoroughly and often. And I don't think we could do this job as easily as we could without her, and also without the deputy city manager and all of her talented staff that work very, very hard, as we know. So I just want to say that. And I want to say that I also, I like parts of this job that I didn't know existed, such as ribbon cutting and grand openings, because and it's funny, I'm not 200 years old or 100 years old, but there's enough history from this region and from the city alone that there's always context to be provided to somebody in a place that they didn't know existed before. And I think that's important, even just being the oldest counselor or having, been on committees and being a library trustee and DRB and all that stuff. You get this sense of experience and you know some history, and I think that is valuable. So I like to point out things when I go places and, you know, something has changed, because everything changes and it's going to keep changing. And what we do today makes a difference about what's going to happen tomorrow and in 10, 20 years from now. So I appreciate all of our hard work. And this is a very different council from when I first joined in 2016, when there was a flying subject matter that had really divided the council and the city at that point. And that's not an issue right now. So I appreciate that. So that's all I want to say. Jesse, did you want to say anything? Your hand's up.
If I can just say just a couple of things. One, thank you for your incredibly kind words. It's really meaningful to me, and I know to Steve, to know that we're being helpful to you and giving you what you need. And most of the credit goes to him. I just get to be the front face of it. Two other things. One, Lori, I appreciate your comments about the honeymoon. Maybe that's true, but I get a sense from, I think you all are between my like 70th and 80th elected officials I've worked with in my career. And I do think that you have, the five of you have a tone of, you don't necessarily need to be 100% aligned, but you have an assumption that each other is coming with good intents and are respectful of one another. And I think that unto itself, even when you have policy disagreements, will get us really far. So I have high hopes that that honeymoon kind of continues for the next couple of years. And then finally, I just wanted to reflect back. I love that you each have talked about engaging with the community. In my experience, you elected officials haven't taken on the strong role you all have taken in the last 4 months to go out and hear from our neighbors, hear from those you represent, and bring those opinions back to the council table. And I really have a tremendous amount of respect for that, and know it takes a long time or a lot of effort and a lot of time away from other priorities for you all. And I really appreciate that you're taking that role of kind of representative democracy and going out to the community and bringing those concepts back and those and selling out to the community what we're doing, those intents. I really just want to reflect that I haven't experienced that before, and I really appreciate that you are committed to that outreach and engagement, and hope that continues. Thanks.
Thank you, Jesse.
I got one more thing to add, just a plug for the staff. I think the beginning of this meeting tonight was an incredible example of the way this team works together. There was a tech problem, and it wasn't just one person solving it. The whole crew was here and found a workaround. And I love watching the way you guys work together.
And you should just know 3 of those people came in from home.
I know.
It was a
frenzy. They weren't in the building. They came in from home to resolve the problem.
They drove you from Highgate. No. Oh, just around the corner. Never mind. Okay.
One did come in from Georgia to fix the air conditioning problem.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I think it is exemplary example of the way this team is committed to making the city work, and I'm honored to be able to work with all of you.
Same here. And before we give it over to Mike, I just want to say, Jesse, thank you so much for the name tags. They're so awesome. I was saying
that was all Andy Broomba. That was his idea, his brainchild. He made it happen.
It reminds me of the roses they give to people on The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. They have little magnets, you know. This is perfect. Thank you so much.
And are we responsible for not losing them?
Yes, exactly. No,
I was going to ask that during other.
Do we have to wear them to every council meeting?
What's the
$15 fee if you lose it? Mike?
Yeah, just one thing to mention. It's great that to be able to participate remote. I didn't come in today because I was ill. I seem to be getting better, but I just wanted to be sure it wasn't COVID. I know it takes a while, and there's another strain going around Europe, so I didn't want to bring you back a gift from Europe that you didn't want. But today I just saw I will be gone the next month, and I know there's a little challenge about participating when you're remote. And so perhaps we can think of in terms of how we flag if the person who's remote wants to speak or engage or whatever. Right now, I've been waving my hand, and I've seen Steve look over a few times and saying, Tim. So just one thing, but I think it's great that we can, continue to participate when we're awake. Makes it easier for other people who want to participate. If you could say, yeah, you can participate in the city council, but if you have, business trips or if you have a personal vacation, you can still participate in it. So that's the only thing, since it will apply to me next week as well, or the next city council meeting.
Thanks, Mike. Did you have something, Steve?
I would suspect in the next 48 hours there'll be a lot of conversation about our Zoom go-to meeting and Teams, what the appropriate and how we're going to handle this before the boss gets home.
Is there a comment from the audience? Ms. Service?
Thank you, Tim. Barbara Service, Summer Woods resident, South Burlington. I want to commend you all. I don't remember, and maybe I don't get to every meeting, but I try. I don't ever remember this kind of reflective conversation and the things that you're talking about, your challenges as well as the things that you've learned, et cetera. And I just want to commend you. I also want to say you did a great job with a tough topic tonight. And you were thoughtful and caring, and you listened. And it's just reflective of the way I think that you're working together. But I think this exercise of taking a little time and reflecting back is commendable. So thank you for everything that you do. And you too, Jesse and Steve, and
Thank
all
you.
of the staff, because there were people here tonight dealing with some of those issues. So thank you.
Thank you. Let's move on to item 12, which is convene as Liquor Control Commission. Can I have a motion to convene as Liquor Control?
So moved.
Second. Third.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mike says aye. It's unanimous. We are now convened as Liquor Control. We have one item for approval, which is Copper at Dorset outside consumption permit. Can I have a motion to approve that?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mike says aye. It's unanimous. And now we need to come out of Liquor Control.
Move to come out of liquor control.
Second?
We have a motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous, and we are out of Liquor Control, and we are now at item 13, which is other business. Is there any other business
One
tonight?
item.
One item, go ahead.
Mention. So the Williston Select Board is going to be considering tomorrow night possibly moving forward with a renewable primary heating ordinance similar to what South Burlington adopted a few years ago. Steve is kindly,
It's in my inbox.
awesome, thank you, been very helpful gathering some data, and they've actually asked me to come speak before the select board tomorrow night on that, so I'm going to be doing that. Just want to let folks know if anyone else wanted to join, I'm happy to send around information, but very excited about that. You know, one of the things that I was hoping, and it seems to be happening, you know, a bit maybe slower than I hoped, was that, you know, with Burlington having done something, we having done something, that, you know, following what you know, the first follower principle, which I articulated when we announced that, when we did this, like, you know, someone's on the dance floor, it doesn't start a crowd until the second person's on the dance floor, and then everyone decides to come. It's that first follower principle, that having two municipalities in Vermont having done something, you know, pretty material on the climate change front, others municipalities would start, you know, adopting that. And so this is part of that, part of making that move forward. So to me, it's very exciting.
That's great. That's great. Any other business? Well,
Can
then
I-
have motion. Oh, go ahead.
I just want to clarify the other paper articles, because I thought I was on deck for July, but I saw that you published, Lori, and I do want to publish something. I was working with Adam on the National Parks and Recs month, so I have something that I'm working on. Are we allowed to publish more than once per month?
Yes, and Mike published in the beginning of June. For whatever reason, took me longer to get mine in. I got it in before the end of June, but it didn't go in until this week. And they said there's no hard and fast. So if you got it in next week, they'd publish it.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
Exactly. If I can just add, I submitted mine the last week of May, and they said we had already had space deadlines. We'll just shift it to the first week of June. I said fine, and you know they don't seem to have any problem. They welcome the opportunity to put our letters in, our opinions pieces in. So I agree with Lori.
Great. So we're going to motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. It's unanimous
Aye.
again. Thank
Good
you,
night.
Mike.
Thank you.
Hope you feel better. Take care.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
thanks for
Glad
staying
you're
home,
doing.
Mike.